A lot of pastors don't like to hear this, but I found God outside of the church. I would witness people acting a certain way on Sunday and the rest of the week be completely different. Christ did not die to give us a religion, but rather a relationship. I had to be stripped from myself. And so he could show that he could make my dream come true. My dream really came true the moment I submitted to him. God, if you restore my voice, I will sing for your glory. And I will just stop being a Christian in the closet. And within months, my voice was restored as I started singing. And Amazing Grace was the first recording. Well, first of all, there's a rub of identity today through social media. We kind of learn that you become what you believe, right? So we kind of adopted that in our way of thinking, but you end up believing what you are told repeatedly and accept as truth.
Stories stir the soul.
Stories reveal.
And stories heal.
In this podcast, we will give you an inside look at someone who's had a life-changing breakthrough.
Real people, real stories with real breakthroughs. As a health and wellness expert and coach, and Todd as a men's mentor,
we've seen firsthand what God can do when it comes to a breakthrough. So lean in, listen well. This could be your biggest breakthrough.
Hello and welcome to Your Biggest Breakthrough. I'm Wendy Pett.
I'm Todd Isberger.
It's so great to be here with you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we hope that you have gone to yourbiggestbreakthrough.com by now and you've downloaded your free Audible, whatever it's called. It's a download. It's a
let me clarify for our friends who have no idea what you're talking about. Go to our website and you will find out there an opportunity to just download an ebook.
Yes.
It'll take you maybe an hour to read it. It's got 6 different stories in it, all stories of miracles. These are all guests we've had on the program.
Incredible breakthrough
Edit
stories.
them down and give you the breakthroughs on it. Yeah.
Or you can listen.
Yeah. With the audio version, it's a compilation. We've taken clips from each one of those shows, put them together. It's about an hour and 20 minutes to listen. And I just promise you, you listen to these stories and you say, oh my goodness, God, you're amazing. And you're going to be inspired. So you got to go get it now.
Get it. It's free. So yourbiggestbreakthrough.com. Go check it out. So today's show is another good one.
Well, yeah, and we're not just the judge of that. I think the listeners will be the judge of that because we're going to interview Steph Carse, who is one of a kind. I'm telling you.
Amazing.
When God started handing out gifts, talents, skills, and abilities,
he gave them all to Steph.
It's like he overloaded this dude.
I feel like I have no gifts, no talents.
Well, we've all got purpose, that's for sure. And you're going to hear how Steph and his wife are fulfilling their purpose in amazing ways. In fact, you're going to hear also about how you can hold onto your faith and your dreams even when you've hit like rock bottom. Like living in your car. This is what his experience was. You're going to hear what was happening during that period of time.
Wow. Well, you're also going to hear how traumatic circumstances, like being bullied, they can actually open the door for greater purpose, and that purpose to help others. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And
you're going to, I got this.
She even has notes in front of her, folks. That's the crazy thing. Notes in front of her, and she's looking at me.
You just get lost. I understand. You're handsome.
Yeah, good. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Good.
And also, you're going to learn how you can call forth the secret hero within yourself and your children. Like, I love that. Calling forth the secret hero.
Yeah, and again, because he and his wife have such big hearts, and this whole issue of bullying, they've started this organization. We're going to talk more about that. But you're going to find out why your true identity and that of your children does not have to be shaped by the culture around you or by social media or by what others say. And I'm telling you, this is key to really understanding who you are in Christ.
That's right. So Steph Carse, he is a 6-time Emmy Award winner. He's so humble. I mean, he talks a little bit about what he does during the show, but oh my goodness, he's amazing. But he was trained as a world-class vocalist, but he's really a jack of all trades because he's a writer, he's an editor, producer, director, songwriter, and music artist with multiple awards and accolades to his name. And as you mentioned, Todd, his wife, Natasha, and him have a very big heart to their philanthropic organization called iCount.org. And it's a nonprofit that fights bullying and empowers the younger generation in schools. So I know you're going to glean big time from this show. So enjoy, and we'd love to hear from you afterwards. Well, hello, Steph Carse. Thank you so much for joining us on Your Biggest Breakthrough. It's a delight to have you.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
You know, one of my frustrations is that we're only going to have probably 30, 40 minutes together. We really need like a day together.
Yes.
I tell you what, just on your website and getting to know you a little bit, sort of vicariously through some of the interviews and things that you've done. Wendy and I we're in awe of your faith and how you dedicated yourself, all the talents, all the gifts, all the skills to God's glory and doing what he's asked you to do. So,
And we're also trying to figure out, why does God love you so much?
yeah.
You got all the gifts, all the talents.
Hey.
And we love that you share them with all of us.
And that's not the easiest thing to have to manage all that. But
Yeah.
but listen, I think we want to just get right to the heart of things, because there's something that really drives you in all your work. And it's not just the accolades and the attention and all of that, and that we've picked up.
Yeah, so
It's something far beyond.
it is. And it's through all these accomplishments that you have had. We've heard of these, and you're going to share some of them. We'll share those too in the beginning of this podcast. We did. But you've had a lot of breakthroughs in your life and throughout your career. So we want to talk first about your faith breakthrough. That is so important. And we've heard you say that you found God outside of the church. And so we want to jump right in with that.
Well, the breakthrough, it's amazing. I look at my life and it really is like a roller coaster. There's a lot of highs, but there's a lot of lows. And so I was brought up the Baptist, a French Baptist, if you could imagine that.
Huh.
So I accepted Christ at the age of 6. And so I've always had a relation. Well, I knew about God and knew about Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit. But for me, I say, and I know a lot of pastors don't like to hear this, but I found God outside of the church, because for me, the church represented, I would witness people acting a certain way on Sunday and the rest of the week be completely different. If you know what I mean? And so, and I can't put everybody in the same category, but for me, it was more of once I understood a relationship with Jesus Christ, that Christ did not die to give us a religion, but rather a relationship. Because see, my mom, it's interesting, when I was a kid, no, you're going to sing for the Lord, you're going to do this, and all those French hymns, I just couldn't stand them. I didn't like them. And it was, I just didn't like them, and I didn't want that. I said, if God, and I understood it, that, I kind of was, I wanted to say more things for me, I guess. It was my journey, and say other things, and without escaping the faith background, but at the same time, I saw myself doing different things. And so my career led me to do different things. I've started in the world of country music, and then my training was in classical, so I did a lot of opera, which is country and opera, so very different.
Wow, did you ever try to do a country song operatically?
No,
Is that possible?
It's a completely different place. But my point,
Yes.
to answer your question, is that it was a misunderstanding. See, I grew up with a religious spirit, which is very different than a relationship. And once I understood the word that God does not make you hungry for bread to feed you with a stone. And so if I had a desire, and so when I understood that God was for me and not against me, so that changed a lot of things. And then the moment I started living in my car was the time I got to have a relationship with God, because I came from a place where I had tremendous success with selling CDs. We had over 500,000 records sold. But I came in this industry very green. All I knew is I wanted to sing, so I didn't know anything about the business. And so what happened, the manager that I had at the time was the record label, the agent, so they made millions of dollars just in 1 year. And I ended up with very little because
And you were in
didn't
your
know
car.
better. Yeah. And so
Wow.
and what happened to go to my car in that situation is that they were selling a lot of merchandising online, and I don't want to go through all the details and relive that, but bottom line is I ended up having to pay the government for their debt because they hadn't paid tax on stuff, and because my name was attached to those merchandising.
Wow.
So that brought me to, you know, being in front of thousands of people and yet not even having money to pay my rent or something. So I left. Not the moment I left. I went to Nashville in '97 with my car, my guitar. That's really all I had.
And then that's how you started writing country songs, with your
Well,
car and your guitar. And
actually, I was coming out of country. I went to
oh,
Nashville
okay.
for some reason, but it was interesting because at that time I was working with high-profile artists because I was involved in helping creating an album for the Special Olympics. So I was working with Donna Summer. Do you remember Donna Summer?
Of course.
Yeah. She was a strong Christian because I would go to church with her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we had a lot of different major artists involved in that album. Somehow I found myself there through my connection and what I've accomplished in Canada, and then working with these people, and then going back in my car at night, not telling anybody, and I had to shower at the YMCA and, you know, live out of the dollar menu at Wendy's. So it was interesting.
Wow.
So, but those were the hungry years, but at the same time, they were instrumental in my relationship with Christ because it made me ask the right questions.
And how long were you living out of your car? How long did this stint take place?
On and off for a while. I don't know exactly how long. It was on and off till '98. You know, sometimes I would go
a couple
to a hotel.
years?
Not quite, because it was on and off. You know, it's not because
Gotcha.
So I would just keep, if I'd have a little bit of money, I would keep it for recording in the studio, and so I would prefer to do that than live in my car. So it was on and off.
So you went through a very humbling experience, to say the least. I mean, you had, if I can put it this way, you had credibility, you had recognition, you had stardom, and you had this great career. You'd made a lot of money, things were going well, and then it all comes crashing down, not by way of your fault. So I think there are people who are listening, Steph, who they don't have this similar experience, but they have an experience where things were going really well, and then it's like somebody pulled the rug out from under them and everything came crashing down. How in the world do you get yourself back up? How did you maintain enough, hope and drive and faith to keep going and not give up?
Somehow, I just knew that I had to go through that. It was almost like God was showing what he could do. And then he was molding me to work for him. Oh. And this is when I understood it, not at that moment, but I could see it from a different window now that I had to be stripped from myself. And so he could show that he could make my dream come true. But my dream really came true the moment I submitted to him, because the accolades you're talking about, I did sell a lot of records prior to that, but I lost all of that. The accolade came, my first big Emmy was with Amazing Grace. Interesting enough, I'm not looking for accolades, not anymore, but I did at one time. And so I could see that it was, that's why I said it's a roller coaster, because it was a long process. I can never blame the Jews for walking 40 years. I think I've walked my 40 years efforts, because I was a slow learner.
Yeah.
And,
Good.
Yeah.
Well, you began to, not shift, but something began to happen inside of you that caused you to put your efforts into not just the opportunities that God was giving you to produce films, to write songs, to perform, but you had this heart for children and quite an experience that led up to that. So I want you to tell us a little bit about just your own life, if you experienced bullying, because you have this wonderful organization, iCount, that really helps equip parents and educators to know what to do when kids are being bullied. But what happened in your childhood that you had that experience, and then what led to this drive in you to create this organization to help others? Well,
I was bullied as a kid because I was very introverted as an artist, and I was so very skinny. And our home for 20 years has been a foster home for mentally challenged kids. So my mom had, would take care of mentally challenged kids. So,
Wow.
For me and my brother, it was difficult at first. And then they, you kind of grow up and they're part of your family. So you can imagine when you go to school, being introverted and name calling just because your home has, those mentally challenged kids. So I was, I was bullied as a kid because of that. And music was a way, singing was a way for me to escape. But what happened is that, I keep talking about the roller coaster, because what happened is that it's after all of this that happened to me when I lost everything, then I find myself up and performing in Vegas. And now we had a PBS special, and I was recording more classical songs, like the Andrea Bocelli songs. And so then I was doing a lot of these classical, like these classic songs, these big tunes, the Pavarotti. And so I was performing in Las Vegas at the Venetians, and at one point I lost my voice. And coming from the East Coast, it's very humid. You go to Vegas, it's very dry. And I was performing 2 shows a day, so basically I wasn't speaking the whole day, just keeping my voice for the show. And it was my identity, the voice was the identity. And all of a sudden, again, God just pull it out, because that's how I could see today that I had to win and lose in order to align myself. But having said that, in 2013, I was going to church in Vegas during the performance, on Sundays, because they still have church in Vegas, believe it or not. And there was a growing church that were building an extension of the church, and the pastor asked the congregation to write their prayer on the pillars of that new foundation. So I go in and I did it, and I said, God, if you restore my voice, I will sing for your glory, and I will just stop being a Christian in the closet, so to speak, and stop being apologetic for being a Christian. And so I will record a bold, album and TV special that will be just for you, would be shown around the world. It was a very bold prayer. In fact, it's still on my screensaver today. That prayer.
See.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and 2013. So having said
good
that,
for you.
Having said that, so I started working on the project, and then I wrote a song called Awesome, and the project was going to be called My Shining Hour Story. And within months, my voice was restored as I started singing. And Amazing Grace was the first recording. And so everything was going well, except that one song that I wrote called Awesome didn't fit the Christian alliance I had with God. And it says it doesn't fit. But I didn't want to kind of get rid of the song because it was a good pop song. And then somebody, it's a long story, but it's worth hearing and telling, because it's very interesting how God works. Somebody sent me a letter that they had seen online about a young kid, 14-year-old, that had committed suicide due to bullying, and hoping that this letter would do something and impact. So when I read the letter, it brought me back to my childhood. And I thought, I was bullied as a kid, but we didn't think about suicide back then. It was not something that was something in our thoughts. So I dig into why would they kill themselves? Because now it's the highest cause of suicide for young children under 14. And, obviously we didn't have that then, right? Families were a little more solid back in my days. Yeah. And then also parents were not as busy. So kids today are coming back home oftentimes on their own, and they're coming back with this, which is the cyberbullying. Back when I was a kid, you get bullied by 2 or 3 kids, and then you get involved in a fight, and that's it. Today, the peer pressure of those kids is like the whole school knows about it.
Yeah.
So they're afraid to walk in school. And so that's a whole different thing. And I prayed on that. And then God says, well, I gave you the song also. And then, so I rewrote the lyrics, and I based it on Psalm 139:14, which is, I am, depending on the version you read in the Bible, I am wonderfully made, or I am awesomely made if you read the complete Jewish Bible. And so I wrote the lyrics about this, but kept it secular so I can go in a secular school and talk about how awesome they are in a disguised format, and how they're created from within and everything about them. And so that came part. That's how it was birthed. This is when I opened this Why I Count organization, Why I Matter, because I am awesomely made, and I know this well. And so that's what started it. And again, it started at the moment where I lost my voice and then made a commitment. So
That's it.
That's so God, right? Like he's like, Steph,
Yeah.
just surrender and just
Interesting.
walk with me.
Yeah, and the way he gets your attention,
Yeah.
gets your attention.
Yeah.
But it's so amazing to see how God puts the pieces together, even though we can't recognize what the picture is going to look like. But the fact that you're writing that song, and the fact that someone sends you that letter, God could take these two instances, merge them together, and do something new in your heart.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
he is in all the details. And I think about bullying as a whole, and it is such a complex issue, especially in this day and age. So in your experience, what are some, I mean, we know what kind of the root causes were in your home, but what are some of the other root causes of bullying, and how do you encourage and teach parents and educators how to address them? What's the best way to go about it?
Well, first of all, there's a rob of identity today through social media,
Yeah.
and I go and speak a lot about that, because if you're a kid and you post a photo and then within 20 minutes, if nobody likes it, then you take it out and you replace it. So that means it's dictating what you like of yourself. Right.
Yeah.
So, and the truth is that maybe 2% of your people see it. So it's all a lie to begin with.
They feel rejected, right?
Yeah, they feel rejected. So, and there's a rub of identity. That's why the why I count, why I matter is important. So our role is not to talk about the danger of bullying as much as to build self-worth and self-worth in who we are. And it's it's a Christian disguise program. So otherwise I wouldn't be able to get into secular school. But at the end, they get to hear how awesomely they are created. They get to hear that life matters. And they get to see all of this. So, but what I say to parents is that the peer pressure is real for the kids. And that frontal part of the brain that helps them make a decision is not there.
That
It's
frontal
not
lobe,
there
yeah.
to the age of 23, 24, 25. So everything is fueled through emotion. So when you go to your kid and say, what were you thinking? Well, they're not thinking, they were feeling. So understanding that this reasoning part, it doesn't exist. It's
Right,
not there.
right.
And it's interesting because it's developed through the years by witnessing an adult or a hero or whoever like somebody you like, and how by watching how they deal with circumstances in their lives and how they're going to operate is going to help you kind of knit this place together. Do you understand what I mean by that? Is how
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Yes.
when you see somebody facing obstacles as a kid, you see how they're going to react and how they're going to react to this. And
it leaves an imprint.
It leaves
Yeah.
an imprint, and that's how they develop their frontal part of the lobe.
Right, right.
And so, and there's not a lot of good heroes nowadays. So we have, as parents, to have to,
harder to find, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm curious with Why I Count, if you have any moments that you would like to share or certain stories based on the program and helping these kids see themselves in a new light. If you've had anyone come up to you and say, "Wow, Steph, my eyes are opened," or I feel so much better about myself now," or just kind of what kind of stories maybe you're hearing as you do these programs?
Well, I hear a lot of different stories. I went to the Disney schools in Lake Orange County in California, and the principal 2 weeks after called me back and said during recess, the kids were talking about how amazing their eyes are compared to digital cameras, because we're talking about how how the eyes were formed. So they're comparing their eyes to their iPhone, that eyes can do, because we talked about the largest computer in the world, which is Japan K. I don't know if it's beat now, but at the time in 2017, 18, 19, 20, it was known as the largest computer, and it takes 40 minutes for that computer to basically record what your brain can do in 1 second. So you're so we talk about these things, and that leaves an imprint. And not too long ago, we did a short film called Is There a Future for Me? This was more targeting the teenage girls because it's about self-harm and body dysmorphia. And so when we played that movie in school, every time you see young girls and young boys crying because they could identify to that. So this is why there's a rub of identity. And you know, I always tell them, I said, you know, we kind of learn that you become what you believe, right? So we kind of adopted that in our way of thinking, but you end up believing what you are told repeatedly and accept as truth. And so
recognizing the lies versus the truth.
Yes.
Wow.
This is so
Needed.
key to understanding how to address bullying, what you're doing to help kids understand their true identity. You know, even as I'm hearing you talk about that, I'm thinking about all the adults in our audience who are listening
That are still struggling with
identity issues, right? Because they're believing what they're being told or what they're seeing on social media. And how do we overcome that, Steph? How do we dig down and really grab hold of our true identity instead of all these other impressions that are made on us?
Well, it's because, you know, we end up believing what we are told and accept as truth, but it's not what you're told as much as what you now say about yourself. And you know, my wife and I, we are memorizing verses and we are declaring them. We want to pass from the theology of the scripture to the experiential. I want to experience the promises of God. That's what we talked earlier about the storm that we're facing now. I want to experience what God promises, because what's happening now, I blame the church. We have become lukewarm. We try to adapt to today. You know, the culture of today. The culture has to adapt to God because God hasn't changed.
Amen.
And so we have to be bold about this. And so we memorize, you know, and is there attacks? Yeah, for real, every time. You know, for instance, when I did that short film, it's crazy the attacks I had before filming that movie. We were going to the high school where we were going to be filming. I kind of live on the hill. And so what happened just as I was getting ready to leave to prepare all my shot list to go to the high school, I left my Jeep for 20 seconds. I went to pick up something in the car and in the house, and the Jeep rolled down the hill and hit the garage at the door of the house over there and destroyed it and destroyed the whole back of my Jeep just before. So I knew it was an attack. But you know what I did that day? This is my biggest victory to this day. And I'm going to tell you about it because I am so happy that for the first time, usually I would say, God, I'm trying to do all this for you. And look what's happening. That was my default for years. Yeah. And this time I said, you know, I didn't do anything wrong on this one. And I'm here to serve you. This attack is not against me. It's against you. So I'm going to make sure that I'm praying. I went back to the house and I wanted my wife to witness that prayer. And I told her that. I said, God, I'm asking you to pay for this. And I don't want to use my insurance. I don't want any out of pocket. And I want only blessings from this. And that same night.
Oh, man.
I got a call from a friend I talked 8 years ago. And then I received a commission that I'd forgotten about. I was due like a while ago. And so anyway, I was working at the time. I was doing a trailer for the movie Left Behind, the Kevin Bacon. I was doing the trailer, and they were so happy with the work, they decided to give me a bonus that same night.
Isn't that incredible?
It's not funny when you think about this. And
you know what? God wants us to praise. He wants us to count it all as joy, right? All.
Yeah. Well, and he wants our simple childlike faith.
Because what I did, I went to the high school with my Jeep, all the back destroyed, and I worshiped all the way to the school. That's what I did.
That's awesome.
So that was my biggest victory for me. And then that TV special that ended up winning an Emmy. So The enemy is
Praise
defeated
God.
already.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, you're giving us some very practical, basic suggestions on how to reestablish our true identity. I love that, and this is really important for parents. I mean, it's important for each of us as adults, but as parents, we have this added responsibility to help shape the inside of our children. With God's help, together, we, as you say, you identify the hero within. So what I'm hearing you say is, number one, as a parent, you need to be the role model for your kid, because they're going to be more is going to be caught than taught. They're going to watch how you're reacting to things and who you think of yourself, what you think of yourself. And then I'm hearing you say too about just how important words are and how parents can speak words over their children that pull that hero from within out. And then the experience of the declarations that you make, where the experience of actually having God fulfill his promises. That is so encouraging, Steph. And
It is.
it sounds so right, but it sounds so simple. And yet how come more and more of us or parents aren't doing that? What's stopping us from really building these things in so we can pull the hero out from within?
Well, you're not going to like the answer, because I wouldn't have liked it when I was a kid.
Come on,
I say it's spending time with him.
Yes. Yes.
More time with him. We always tell my wife and I were saying, we always claiming that we have no time. Well, how much time am I spending on this every day? How much time am I spending watching something? We don't have cable here, so we watch the old shows because there's very little to watch today anyway. But bottom line is, and it's not something that you can just discipline yourself, because if I discipline myself in reading more of the Word, then it becomes a religious experience, and then you do it out of guilt, and that doesn't work. So I asked God, I said, change my heart, give me a heart that desire your Word, and it comes from that. For us, this is our prayer. Your promise is that you will give us a new heart and a new spirit in Ezekiel. So I want that new, is it Jeremiah, I think, or Ezekiel, I forgot where it is. Sometimes I'm wrong quoting this, but I will give you a new heart and a new spirit.
Yeah.
I will take away your heart of stone. So I said, I want that experience. So give me a new heart so I could desire more time with you. Because if I try to just discipline myself into it, it becomes a ritual.
Yeah.
And there's no truth in it.
Yeah. Having that hunger and having just that desire.
It has to come from him.
Heart transplant.
Yeah. It has to come from the Creator. If you created me, I want to have more time with you. Allow it. So this is, I don't know if it's helping. This is what my wife and I would pray
this
for.
is so good, Steph.
Yeah,
no,
because
absolutely.
you're boiling it down to something every one of us can and should and must do if we really, truly want to engage in what God has for us in our lives.
But I think sometimes, Steph, people are not doing it because they might be afraid of what they might hear from the Lord.
Right.
Right? So out of fear, they're not doing the very thing they desire to do.
Well, it's because, first of all, the lie that I believed for so many years, that if I would do work for God, that wouldn't be fulfilled. I didn't want to do those hymn songs because I didn't think it was fulfilling for me. So I stand differently now, because I get more fulfilled, than anything doing his work. But it's a decision. That part is a discipline. That part is the part that you have to do that God will not do for you, which is to change your mindset about how you perceive things. Because, on a daily basis, it's a moment-to-moment decision to say no to certain things.
It's that free
it's
will.
like if you're on a diet and you go hang out at the Cheesecake Factory, you're not going to win your victory.
Idea.
It's a bad idea. So, it's a decision that you have to make. And the decision is basically, I think it's a lifetime battle for all of us, because I still wrestle with that. It's to die to self and say, what do you want me to do in this? And we're always thinking that we're going to lose out of it, and that was a big deal for me, the feeling of losing something, because, as I said, my career was a roller coaster ride. So I would always try to get the next job. When in 1998, they were opening Portofino here, and they wanted Andrea Bocelli, but he couldn't come. So my manager said, could you do Bocelli? I was so hungry. I said, oh yeah, I can do Bocelli. I had no clue who he was.
Oh, wow.
And so, because he was, so I had to learn, but my point is, I come from that place where I don't want to miss out because I don't want to go hungry. And so when you die to that and you let the Lord take over, then you get more than you can expect, because I'm very limited in my thinking, but he is not. But that's the discipline that my wife and I are doing. We have to die to self on
So
a
good.
moment to moment basis. And you generally receive more that way.
Amen.
And that really does model for others, whether we think it's modeling or not. It's modeling for others, and especially for our kids. If they see that level of commitment to the Lord and unselfishness and eagerness to help others become all whom God has made them to be, that really rubs off. I'm thinking about your organization, the iCount, which I think is just phenomenal. I'm begging listeners to go check that out. It's the letter
iCount.org.
It's the letter Y.
Yep.
iCount.org. And you have so many resources there. But Steph, what do you feel are some of the more impactful resources that you're providing? I mean, you've got series of films, you've got videos on YouTube, you've got songs, you've got all these materials, but maybe kind of help our listeners hone in on what you feel would be most effective in terms of the resources.
By far, it's the Secret Hero series, because it's a series of 8 episodes, and they're very short, they're about 10, 11 minutes each. And I did that with in collaboration with Victoria's Voice Foundation, because they had lost, David Siegel had lost his daughter to suicide due to drug overdose. Or I told them the full story and the whole spectrum of how it came out there in the news. But bottom line is that they are at war against drug and what it does to the new generation. So I did this series, and then they wanted to be part of it. So we filmed that. And it's really, I think it's an easy to follow step guideline. If you haven't seen the series, it's worth watching. To watch, not just for your kids, but for you as parents, because it's helping you cope with what they're coping with.
Well, we cannot thank you enough for following God's lead. First of all, using your talents, your gifts, because that's enjoyable for you to produce films, do songs, write songs, all of that.
And also using the hardships.
Yeah, well, taking it
to birth if you will. Why I count, right?
So the very fact that you're just sort of putty in the hands of God is encouraging and inspiring. But there are people who are listening right now, and they're really scared of this whole thing about bullying and all the implications of that, and even in their own lives, really not grabbing hold of their true identity and feeling as though, man, things are just getting worse. Things are like we're helpless in this world of hopelessness when it comes to social media, reinforcing bullying and all the other. What do I do? And so I just want you, as we bring things to a close here, why don't you offer some hope to those who feel like this is way too big, this is a problem that's never going to get solved, and my kid's caught up in it, I'm caught up in it, what in the world, where am I at? How am I going to get out of this? Can you offer some hope to folks who are feeling like it's just all going south?
Yeah, so I don't know if I can. I mean, outside of just what we do, because it's a battle for all of us, is that, I think parents have got to take a hold of what the kids are watching.
Yeah.
They have to monitor what, the apps, like when you have those chat apps that whatever is being said disappears within 24 hours. We see how much sex trafficking now. They've been recruited from apps like Instagram and Facebook. And so it's important to, I think it's to spend time with your child and not try to reason because you can't, but try to get in his psyche and understand what he's going through or what she's going through. And, obviously it starts there. It's being a parent. But the parents are as attacked as the kids. I mean, the whole church is attacked right now. I think when you have a purpose that is to be fulfilling what you guys do, which is, to share the gospel through your podcast and whatever you do outside of that, then you're going to be under attack. If you're not under attack, then you're not doing anything to establish God's kingdom on earth. And so how do I deal with that? I just say, well, he's a defeated foe. And the Bible gave us, so it's like if I used to watch those movies, those action films. A guy, I love the Bruce Willis films. So it keeps you at the end. It keeps you at the edge of your seat, but you're okay because you know that he's going to win at the end, right? So the Bible is that. The ride that we're going through, we know the end of the story. We know that Christ made a spectacle out of him. He's already defeated. So the mind is, that's why the helmet of protection, when he talks in Ephesians, is to protect what you let in. I refuse to look at certain things because I don't want to have an image of certain things. And so I got to keep my thoughts holy. So when I see something, I just turn away. I turn away because I don't want anything in that will perturb my thoughts. And so, and you can teach that to your children.
Yeah, that's a good word,
when you watch
Steph.
that? Do you want to feel like that?
Right.
Right. Well, and people are becoming so desensitized, or whatever I'm trying to say, towards that because they're seeing it so often.
Right.
And so what you're saying is something that people really need to get back to if they haven't, to turn away that the things that are causing perversion and that are not holy.
Yeah. And I was going to say too, like what Steph said, like monitor what your kids watching in social media, in all of the apps and whatnot. I'm so proud of one of my daughters who did that from early on, didn't give them a phone until they reached a certain age.
That's
and
awesome.
then
That's awesome.
Monitors it so that their kids don't get exposed to all of these wrong messages about what everybody else thinks you ought to be and what you ought to look like. And it's so harmful. But Steph, you yourself and your wife and your organization are doing such a great work to bring us hope, bring us resources, teach us, educate us, and help us with God's Holy Spirit empowering us to have the victory. And we really appreciate that.
Yes.
Well, and then remember, as a parent, your child does not reason. So whatever he sees,
that's right.
It's going to fuel the wrong kind of emotions or the right kind of emotions. So that's important to understand that you can't reason.
That's right. That's right.
That's good.
Well, we thank you so very much, and we thank you for all sharing your incredible gifts and talents with the world. If you have never heard Steph Carse and his incredible singing gift, I mean, YouTube him, go get his CDs. Like, go to stephcarse.com.
I don't think Bocelli's got anything over. I really don't.
Seriously. Amazing. And you're so humble. So thank you for joining us. I'd like to end this podcast just on kind of a fun, light note, because bullying is a pretty heavy topic. But I'd like to hear just something fun that maybe people don't know about you, Steph, that maybe it's like a hobby or something that's kind of outside the box that you and your wife do that, I don't know, maybe you go hiking and you've climbed Mount Everest. I don't know. Give me something fun. Give me something fun here.
Well, we do a lot of fun things, her and I, and we go on a date now on a regular basis because we just, our work is so heavy at times. We just came back from a cruise. But what we did fun, last year we filmed a movie. In my free time, I would just film some parts of the house and some parts around my neighborhood. And we did this Christmas movie called True Miracle of Christmas. And so my wife is like amazing. She's never acted. She's never, this is, if you say I can, I will do it. And so she plays my wife obviously in there. And so it's a musical. It's a Christmas. It's actually, people can view it on Prime right now. It's on Amazon Prime. But it's a fun movie.
I was sent a clip or a link for that.
Yes, and we watched
we watched it this morning. It's hilarious.
It is. It's really funny. Good.
Really, really well done, man. You guys kind of went out. You went outside the box.
And your wife does a great job, by the way. In fact, I even said, "Do you think that's his wife?" Because man, they're like really connected.
Oh yeah,
and a bit crazy.
Yeah. So that's my wife. That's one of my commitment now. I'm just not going to do anything else romantically with anybody else but my wife.
There you go.
So the funny part is like, we are praying to have a child, and we got pregnant last year, and we lost the baby. So I told my wife, I said, let's be bold. So I said, why don't you? So I ordered her on Amazon a fake belly. 9 months. So I said, would you be willing to, and maybe when it's coming out,
That's
God
good.
will allow us to get pregnant again.
Oh.
And so she's wearing this big million, pretending she's giving birth. So it's a funny movie.
That is so great. It's so great.
That's our boldness about this one.
Well, we're going to be bold right now. And Heavenly Father, we just praise you and we thank you that if it's in your will, you will impregnate Steph's wife, and they will have the most amazing, healthy, godly child, and it's going to be here all for your glory. So we're just already believing in that to come. So we just thank you in Jesus' name.
Maybe twins, maybe triplets.
Hey, there you go. Come on
That's
now.
what she wants.
Okay.
Make up for lost time.
Make it so. Make it so.
And one word of caution to you: stop parking your Jeep on a hill unless you know it's not going to
I've
roll
never
backwards.
used it. It's the brake, and now I use it.
Good man. Steph, you're a delight.
Really appreciate you. Thank you,
Thank
for joining us. If you're listening, make sure you go to whyiCount.org and then StephCarse.com. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. We'll catch you next time on Your Biggest Breakthrough.
Thank you, guys.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Well, that's a wrap for today's show. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, we love spending time with you right here on Your Biggest Breakthrough podcast. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode. But until then, just head on over to yourbiggestbreakthrough.com, where you'll find some free resources and information and a place where you can comment, and we would love to dialogue with you there. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.